Hi, everybody. Don't ask me why the images came up cockamamie. Uh, Hi, everybody. I think I didn't have my microphone on, but now I should, and you should be able to hear me. So, welcome to Lighting the Way with Beth Green and friends. My name is Beth Green, otherwise known as Granny Rocks, and I invite you to chat with us tonight, either on YouTube or Facebook. Uh, if you're on my public page, I'll be able to see you if you're on Facebook, your comments. So tonight, I want to talk to you about something that may rile you up or may be of great relief. And you'll say, oh, of course. Or you'll say, of course, I knew that. And the topic is this is the show your God doesn't want you to hear. And so, what's that about? Why would I possibly have picked a cockamamie topic like that? Well, I started to think about our gods. I started with this thought about why did people elect a certain person as our president? And one of the major reasons was because he pranced around and told you that he was essentially God, that he never made mistakes, that he knew what he was doing, that he was going to fix everything from day one, and you'd never have to think again, you'd never have to vote again or any of that. So you could say, well, oh, that's really weird. Or you say, yeah, I really believed that. And now I feel betrayed. But when you think about it, we tend to have gods that we want to rely on. We want them to have the answers. We want to hold them responsible. And we don't want to have to think. I mean, right? So I wanted to talk tonight about our gods. And first of all, of course, there is God the Father. So some people have this idea that there is a perfect God who is up in heaven and is in charge of everything, and everything is going to be all right. And now we can just relax and we never have to think about it. And we will lie to ourselves about how we really feel about the world that this so called God the Father created and say, oh, it's perfect, it's wonderful. God is perfect. We're terrible. There is a way that we will put ourselves down rather than saying, well, maybe God made a mistake when he or she created this universe. Maybe, there's a problem here. Like I always say, why would God create a universe where you have to kill to eat? I don't think that's very kind. And there's a lot of problems like that. But see, people will rarely question God because we want God to be above us. We don't want to question God. We don't want to question. We don't want to be responsible to make our own decisions. Does that sound familiar to you? So, how many ways do we lie to ourselves in order to maintain that God? Well, now let's go on and look at some other gods that we have. Maybe we grew up where our father was God. Well, Father Knew Best. That was a TV show when I was growing up. Father Knows Best. And my father didn't know best. Even my mother didn't know best. But I needed a God. I needed to feel secure. So I made my mother into God. She knew what she was doing. Now, nobody ever said that we had replaced God the Father in heaven with my mother. But in real life fact, I did see my mother as powerful and smart and knowledgeable and all of that. And of course, at a certain point, I began to question the things that she was saying and thinking. And she did not like that. She didn't want to be questioned. And, it's kind of funny because my mother, who was my God, because she seemed all powerful, not only was she not all powerful in the world, but she had gods too. For example, she always said things like, "What would the neighbors think?" So evidently, what the neighbors thought was God. It was so important what the neighbors thought. Or she would say, "Beth, it just isn't done." Well, whatever it was, she decided that it wasn't done and therefore it shouldn't be done. Now, you may not have chosen your mother or father. It could have been an older sibling. It could have been a character in a book. Yeah. Let's think about all the different gods that we've had that told us what it could be our friends. Well, all my friends are doing it, so I need to do it too. And see what happens when we create gods out of people. And it's not just people, because I'm going to move on to talk about some others, is that we are absolutely trapped by the limitations of the people that we have created to be God. Now, let's look at some other kinds of gods that we've created. For example, for some people, power is God. It means that's everything. That is the highest value, is to have power. And that's what we strive for our whole life, is to have power. Power in relationship to somebody, something, not mutual support, but power. And that means we have made power into God. We've said, "Oh, that's the most important thing, is to have power." And I started to ask myself, well, what about you, Beth? And it could be a religious leader, it could be another kind of person, right? Your priest, your rabbi, your Aunt Hilda. And we start to attribute to that person these elements of infallibility, and we want them to solve our problems. Could be our therapist, could be Beth. Yes. Oh, I agree with that one. Okay. So I asked myself, what has been my God? And there's something very interesting about this, which you'll see in a minute. And I think that for me, God was love. And that means that I had to be loving under all circumstances, because that was God. And in fact, when I first started channeling, because I had a psychic awakening many years ago, 45 years ago. And I heard the voice that I thought was Jesus Christ. And I was born Jewish, so that was really surprising to start with. And Jesus said, "To the degree that you love yourself, God, and others, to that degree you will be healed." And I thought, wow, now I know what to do. I just have to love myself, God, and others. Well, that's not always so easy. But the irony is, I did get to the point that I did. And I wasn't healed. So I would have to blame myself for that and say, well, I guess I wasn't loving enough. People who believe in manifestation, that they can manifest reality, they make that God, right? And so if things don't work out and they can't manifest the reality, they say they did something wrong. They didn't focus enough. They didn't believe enough. You see, whole religions have been based on that. So what is really interesting is God love, or is love God? And of course, we conflate them, because people will say God is love. Well, but God isn't love. God is the totality of all being. God is the rapist and the saint, because God is everything. On some level, we know that, but we don't want to know that, because we want God to be love, because we want ultimately for us to be able to appeal to and manipulate our God so we will get what we want. Or you can have God as vengeful, or a God as judgmental. You can have all kinds of gods. So we see that characteristic. We call it God, and we think that God is only that characteristic. And we don't want to know that it isn't true. Look at people who have held on to Trump despite his obvious lies, despite his decline and all of that, because they have attributed godlike qualities to him. And they're afraid of him, or more likely, what are they going to do if they let go of him as the ultimate authority? They may have to start thinking for themselves. And my God, we can't have that, can we? If I think for myself, uh, I might make a mistake and then I'm responsible. I'd much rather have somebody else think for me and make them responsible. So there's a lot more examples that I could give, but what I'd like to do instead is to bring on my panel and invite you who are listening live to put a message in the chat. Remember, if you're on Facebook, it must be my public page, Beth Green, the music and the message, at facebook.com/Granny Rocks On. Otherwise, I won't see your comment until later. And in YouTube, just put it, I guess, in the live chat. Or in the comments or wherever. Somehow people find their way. So I want you to take a look at the question that I confronted myself with is, what have you made God that you don't want to let go of? That you want to slavishly believe that, like, we can't be full people. Oh, if God is love and love is the healing power, then I can never be angry, can I? Because that's not loving, And the truth is that we need anger. We need all the aspects of our consciousness in order to be well. So please put your comments in the chat. And in the meantime, I'm going to introduce my guests. So tonight we have Lizzie Treehart. And we have Todd Benton. And we have, last but not least, oh, come on, James Maynard. Never make a computer program God, because it will let you down all the time. It never works the same way, all of that. So anyway, who is ready to ask themselves honestly, yes, James, what have you made God?
Well, I made God into a high authority figure who's looking over my shoulder and who I need to placate, I need to please, I need to be a good boy. And so I've striven all my life to be a spiritual person, to look good in the eyes of God.
Right. Be good for God.
Yeah, be good for God. That's a good one. And I've only come to see it differently now. Now I've come to see it as the universe is evolving, and so is God. And the universe needs healing, and so does God. And if I'm an aspect of God, the more I can heal myself, the more I'm healing an aspect of the totality that God is. So I'm at peace with that. Otherwise, I don't like continually having to look over my shoulders. Am I good enough? Am I good enough? or have something to be ashamed of or guilty about. Uh,
Right.
so
And if something goes wrong, obviously it's your fault because God is perfect. Or this must be some lesson that you need to hear. Not that there was faulty equipment in the auto factory and it sliced your arm off. No, God is perfect. This is a very important lesson, the sliced off arm lesson. Yes, that's very good. And James, I wonder if you don't have a little bit of the love is God, because part, which is that if your wife isn't always 100% loving and accepting of everything you do, then she is bad too. Not that I'm going to tell anybody who your wife is.
Too late.
Yeah, well, I can accept that God is love, and also God is power, and also God is wisdom, and God is all these aspects. And so it's unreasonable of me to expect that my wife is going to be perfect and perfectly loving all the time, because
Yeah,
God
well, you didn't mention any negative qualities about God. God is anger. God is revenge. God is the totality, the rapist and the saint, as Beth Green would say.
God needs a lot of healing,
You bet it.
because we, the universe, we these all these aspects of the universe, and especially on this planet, in this human kingdom, we need a lot of healing.
We do. And if God was the creator of this mess, then it's God's responsibility. See, if God wants to be God, God has got to take full accountability for this creation.
If only.
God never does. God never takes accountability. It's always somebody else's fault. Does that sound like the president again? Fun. Okay, so who would like to share next? What or who or what? You see, it can be an aspect of it, could be a community, could be God. Like you have to please that community. Anything that you give all that power to and then are afraid to stand up to. And we'll talk about that in a minute. So, who's ready next?
I'll go next.
Okay.
I have a couple of ideas. Have I made my wife God?
Yes.
She has the, it's like, you talk about the highest consciousness in the room, but that doesn't mean I have to make her God, right? Yeah. But I think I have.
And did you, that's very good. And do you think you started with somebody else earlier in your life that kind of uh, conditioned you to think
Sure.
about?
My dad. Yeah, definitely. He had power, and he had power over me. And so similar to your mom, the way what you described with your mom, I think that is probably a pretty common thing that children do.
Sure.
And then made him not God, but I never, like I transferred that to, but I do think I have the God is love thing, because I also have that thing. I got to be a good one. I got to be a good boy. I got to be a good guy and do the right thing. And, even while I'm stabbing people in the back, I want to look good. I want to look like I'm a nice guy.
It's such an important point you're making, Todd, because it makes us lie to ourselves because we have to keep pretending that we are this aspect of consciousness.
Right.
And so that makes us duplicitous,
Yeah.
lying.
Yeah.
So,
Rather than just being honest about all
yeah.
aspects. I mean, if we saw God as the totality, then we wouldn't have to cordon off these areas of ourselves that we say, oh, that's bad, that's good, that's bad, don't show that to people, that's good, put that out there, show off.
Yeah,
What a
and
nightmare.
right,
Yeah.
and ironically, when we stop doing that, we become capable of neutrality,
Mm.
and we can start looking at ourselves honestly, and then we can say, "I wonder why I'm feeling that or having that reaction. Is that really the right that, the a response that is appropriate for the situation? Or am I
Helpful.
just
Yeah. Yeah.
helpful? How? Because, ultimately, it would be so helpful if we could see reality and put our energy into empowering each other. And I'm going to get to that part in the end about how that really relates to the problem of lack of empowerment. But thank you, Todd. Very good. Okay, who's next?
I would say I made my dad God, and I tend to make male authority figures God in my life, like whether it's a boss. Had several bosses in the past. I think I made them God. I think I've made you God. Um, you do have a lot of wisdom and you do help support me a lot. And when I'm in a lot of pain, most of the time you can help me. And I'm wondering if people who have money that might be able to help me out, or like if I see money coming my way, then I make them God.
Mm. A lot of people make money God.
Mhm.
Yeah.
I mean, not, making me rich, but just make life not so
Yeah.
stressful.
I feel just something else.
Uh,
Those
my
are
wife,
all good. What's that?
my wife,
Uh, yeah.
is that it? Did
Mhm.
that feel like that was it? Yeah.
Yeah. Well, believe it or not, as critical as I can be of my husband, I still make love of him God. So when he does something which is harmful or hurtful, somehow or other, I need to make myself have a loving response because that's, I can get angry for a moment, but then I have to return to love. And in the process, I disempower myself. And I want to talk about that for a moment. Um, One of the worst outcomes of this pattern that we humans have is that we have to keep God big, right? There's only one way to keep God big is to keep ourselves small. If we see the reality and we look at things honestly, and then we may have emotions that, if they come out, are not friendly to the one that we've called God or made into God. And as a result of that, we're afraid because we have this idea, God is omnipotent, all powerful, omniscient, knows everything, and omnipresent. It's like you can't go to the bathroom by yourself. Oh, we have some loves from Katyusha from the Ukraine, and we have a Ukrainian flag and two hearts. Thank you, mwah, mwah, mwah. Katyusha, if I'm pronouncing your name right. Um, and so, what we do, you see, is we disempower ourselves in order to keep whoever is God up there because we're so scared of being in the world as weak and stupid as we really are. Right? And somebody's got to know something. Some people will make science God, right? And so we are inevitably disempowering ourselves. Now, I don't mean we should walk around and act like we alone are God and we're in our egos. In fact, too much we make the ego God. The ego tells us what to do, and we listen. Yes, ego. Yes, ego. Ego knows best. That self-preservation is God, or generosity is God. That then we're trying to live up to that. But in the process of doing this, not only just do we disempower ourselves, but we disempower everyone else because we don't want them to challenge the God that we are looking to keep us safe. And what I believe we really need to do is to all empower ourselves to be what we really are, the weaknesses and strengths that we have. Look at the totality, look at God, be honest about all of it, and try to empower one another. I mean, you think about the centuries of religious teaching that have told us that we're evil, that we're flawed, that we're, we don't know what we're doing, and we have original sin and all of that stuff. And supposing I don't want to buy that anymore. Supposing I say, no, yes, I am weak. Yes, I am flawed. And I am also capable of more than I think. And I'm not afraid to stand up to God. Well, are you going to get swatted off the face of the earth? If our president had his way, everybody who disagreed with him would be in prison. There it is, as clear as day. That's what it means when somebody pretends to be God and other people let him. But I say no, I say every one of us has value that we need to feel and know. And our job is to help everyone to see what they have to offer and what their value is, and to appreciate all the aspects of consciousness that exist. If you like this program, please give it a like or a love on Facebook, give it a thumbs up on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel and click the notification button, follow us on Facebook, and come back and tell other people about this program, and maybe even share this with other people, even if you're afraid that they might not like it. But maybe you say, how are we going to develop critical thinking if we don't let people think, and if we don't teach our children to think and to question everything, because everything needs questioning. So before I ask again if there is anyone else who would like to say something, I'd like to remind you to come back next Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Pacific time, live on my Facebook page, Beth Green, the Music and the Message, and on my YouTube channel, Beth Green TV. And come join us live and join the conversation. And if you're watching this later, put it in the chat. Talk about what you have made God. Be willing to take that first step. The first step always is to ask questions. And what happened to good old Socrates? Wasn't he the guy who asked questions? Poisoned, right? Killed. But if enough of us ask questions, that can make a huge difference. So, do any of my panelists tonight want to share anything else before we go? How do you feel about what I've been talking about tonight?
I feel good about it. It feels refreshing, breath of fresh air.
I like that.
I just like to add that part of our conditioning, Santa Claus. He knows what you've been thinking. He knows if you've been bad or good, so be good for goodness sake. This has been inculcated into us. We've been so programmed that God, Santa, these God figures, we got to be good. We got to satisfy them. And like you say, that disempowers us and empowers them.
That's right. Exactly.
I'm with
Anyone?
James, and that's the main message I'm taking away from this. If we want to talk about a takeaway, is like putting it back in the rightful perspective. God has a value, but let's not put God on a pedestal. Let's, see where our own power lies, and do try and do the right thing, but not from that place of proving something about ourselves, but just because that feels inherently right to do.
Exactly. Perfectly said, that we're not trying to propitiate the gods,
Yeah.
so that we can be safe. We're doing it because we value our integrity so much that we're not willing to throw it away. And I am happy to acknowledge that there are times when I feel like a divine energy and it's very uplifting, but that doesn't blind me to the reality of the world that we live in and all the needless pain that is caused by us blaming ourselves for the way things are that we did not create. So, good one. Lizzie, do you have anything else you'd like to share before we close tonight?
Nothing's coming to mind at the moment.
Well, how do you feel about this?
I think it's something good to look at and to be honest about.
Right. But you don't like it.
Mm-mm.
Right. Okay. That was what was missing. So you have to be willing to say that. I don't like this. One good thing about Beth is that she doesn't have the power to strike you down.
That's right.
Okay, thank you so much for joining us tonight. And thank you to my panelists for their honesty and their love, which I appreciate. And God bless you. And let us have some music to bring us out. Till next week.